Hello and welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports and another edition of basic 101 type of stuff for cycling, toolkits, that kind of stuff. So I do a series of different types of videos, and in this case it's videos that if you're an experienced rider, you'll be like, oh, I already know all that stuff. But this video probably isn't for you. It's for those that are looking for ideas because they're new to cycling and trying to figure out, what am I even supposed to have as far as equipment? And also it is to help you, if you're a beginning cyclist, when you go to a bike shop, how to ask good questions, get good answers in response, and not be sold things you don't need or be sold something that is above what you need. So let's look at just 3 pumps that I have used, why I prefer each for whatever reason. So let's look at that. Now, there is a lot of time when you may just want to use a CO2 cartridge and an inflator. And if you're in a hurry, if it's race day or you're just on a supported event and you're like, okay, yeah, I'll use this real quick and then move on. But these are 3 pumps, and the dollar bill is here just to give you some perspective of how of what the size of these items are. So we all know what basically a dollar bill, the length of one, so you get an idea here. There are much smaller pumps than this Lezyne, but this is about as small as I would ever go. They make them, probably even smaller than this hose. I just think that's just ridiculous. So I wouldn't carry something that small. So this type of pump can go clamped to your underneath your bottle cage, and it's very small. Obviously, it doesn't take up much space. It does not hit the crank arm as it's coming around. So this is a very nice size pump. Now, Sam Sepiol, I believe, I'm sorry if I did not pronounce your name correctly. He asked me what kind of pump do I like on a previous video, the video about what I carry in my tool bag. Now, I like the Lezyne pumps and I like the flexible hose. So, if you're trying to use a pump, a small pump like this, that is just, it's rigid and it maybe just has the air chuck on the side or something like that, I find it can rip off the valve stem sometimes. And so I prefer not to use those, and I like these Lezyne pumps because you thread it onto the valve, right? I use Lezyne pumps in as a floor pump as well. I thread it onto the valve, and it's secure, and then I'm not bending the valve core tip, which could cause a problem. So I just use this, and of course, this being a pump, you pump this, and this is attached, okay? In that video about my toolkit, I spoke about a Lezyne pump that I have that actually has a PSI, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to get that focused in. So as you're increasing the pressure, you could see right there. There it is. So 40, 60, 80, 100, 120 PSI. So there's a portion of the air showing here what pressure you have. And I think that's really nice touch because it's very streamlined. It's all part of the hose. And then you have here a way to bleed off some of that pressure. Now, I like pumps like this just because, let's just say you've cut your tire, you have a makeshift repair for that cut tire, and you don't want to inflate it too much And so you'd end up wasting a CO2 because you're only going to put in, let's say, 40 psi road pressure on road tires, and you're just trying to get home. And then now that CO2 is wasted because by the time you go to use it again, that CO2 has dissipated. So I like these pumps. I prefer this one. You can see it's just a tiny bit bigger than this one, but it pushes a little bit more volume, and it's a little easier for me to pump. Lastly, if I'm going really long and I'm going into areas that are quite deserted, like, well, to include our deserts here in San Diego County, I prefer to have just one of these guys. Now, if you've watched my channel, you know that I like steel bikes, and I like my Ritchey for a lot of endurance riding because it's a very simple bike, and the shape of the head tube, the shape of the seat tube do not interfere with putting this end, and it's rubber, and this end onto your frame. Because if you're using, carbon fiber frames, there's just always some radical shaping to it, and you just can't secure this pump on there. Now, this has a high pressure and the zero pressure, which is basically your install, and it fits 2 to 3 different sizes, like let's say a 54, 55, 56 top tube, something like that. So it'll fit a medium sized frame up to maybe a large, on the smaller side. And then they come in different sizes, so you could get one for a smaller bike or a larger bike. I like these pumps. You got plenty of cylinder and pump action, and you can inflate your tire back up to road pressures of 80, 90, 100 psi. So these are 3 pumps that I think any cyclist, regardless of whether you're experienced level or beginner, that you should have in your repertoire. There may be different situations where you may use a different pump for a different reason, and you just have the clamp on your bike. You could use one of these 2. It might even be redundant. You may not want 2 of these, just one of these, and then a frame pump. Listen, it's not about being cool and, all the aesthetic stuff. I mean, if you come to my channel, I'm going to give you real talk. And real talk is when you flat enough times on one ride and you're stranded, you're going to wish you had a pump to air up your tire, a patch kit, these little things that everyone is like, oh yeah, no. You become a weight weenie and you start doing silly things. You're not carrying your emergency repair stuff. Listen, tubeless, I've been trying tubeless since 2007, 2008. It just doesn't work 100% of the time. It just doesn't. Nothing does, by the way. So have enough flat repair, have enough tubes, have enough inflation, and that should get you out of any jam to get you home and then some. As a matter of fact, one of the times I was out doing a 600-kilometer brevet, I had a cut on one of my tires. And I was only about 80 miles into this 600-kilometer brevet, which was about 380-something miles. And I put a tire boot into my tire, something similar to this. And I've got extras here. So what I do is sometimes if customers come in, I say, look, this is what you do with your spare tires. Your used tire. Just cut some extra boots. I put one of these into my tire, and you can see the different sizes as well. I put one of these into my tire and rode, I guess, another 300 miles to finish the event. So, please stop being a weight weenie. Please have enough emergency stuff with you. If you're just doing the 30-mile morning club run and there's 50 other riders with you, yeah, you probably don't need to carry that much stuff because everyone else has got at least one tube and at least one CO2, and they'll pull over on the side of the road and help you, unless it's a drop world championship morning ride and then you're on your own. But just please listen to the message. The message is, don't go without the things you need just because you're trying to look cool or you're trying to make your bike lighter to brag to your friends. Real talk, people. Carry the stuff you need. You never know when you're going to need it. And also, you never know when you're going to see another cyclist on the side of the road that you need to hand over a tube, hand over a CO2, or a tire boot and get them home safely. Okay, that's all for today. Please like and subscribe. If you like these types of videos that break it down to the basics, please let me know. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know what I have forgotten, that I didn't know when I was a new cyclist. So please leave some messages and say, I don't know about this, or what should I do about that? And I'll create a video with that question in mind. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you up the road.